I'm Jim Check with Now Media. With me, Ian Burns, our managing editor, all out there in Ottawa, the nation's capital. Welcome back. And look at that, a haircut, eh? Look at that, all fancied up for today. We got a really big show, as usual, a really big show. Scotland in focus as Trump makes a big splash there. And TikTok blows the clock to August 1st. Harper tapped for advice. Media sees EU deal as Trump victory. Elections Canada has a fix for that longest ballot. Feds can't find 604 nationals or ordered to deport. And EB invites all the windmills to British Columbia. And all that and a lot more on the really big show. We actually have a really big show. I mean, not to mince words, we do have a really big show. But there you go. Carney says, we'll kick it off. Carney says trade talks in intense phase after Trump scores win with the European Union. Are they? I don't know.
I mean, one assumes. But I mean, we're going to learn, aren't we, in the future? When Carney writes his memoirs, or Chrystia Freeland, or whoever it is, we're going to learn what this was actually like. But I imagine it's not like it's nothing like CUSMA when that was negotiated, which would have involved God knows how many, like an army of diplomats and civil servants and all the rest of it. I feel like this is more, a little bit sort of thinner in that regard, and it's more just about a few things, isn't it? This isn't like a full comprehensive deal. I think it's just a few things, and seems to me that it's Carney and company trying to surrender in a way that is least offensive to their base. That would be my prediction, and also least offensive to the provinces, which is an added sort of element, isn't it?
Yeah, that big deal in Europe, though, that's got a sting. That's really got a sting, though, because Carney had, said he was going to pivot Canada away from the United States and focus on the European Union. And there you go, boom, there is a big deal with the European Union, with the Americans, and with LNG, which is even worse, because that's what Trudeau turned that deal down a couple of years ago. So here you go, they're all, almost three-quarters of a $1 trillion in LNG alone, and no business case.
And it's come at a time. It's come
away.
Just at the time when apparently now we're interested in that now, and we're starting to export it from BC, and there's lots of talk about LNG now. But unfortunately, the Americans are at least sort of 10 years ahead of us, maybe more, and they've just got this crazy deal with the European Union based in part on the threat of withdrawing military support. That's not something that we could possibly hope to match. We're just kind of bystanders, aren't we?
And this one actually is hopeful for me. They actually, if this is all true, that Carney reached out to Harper and asked, how do you deal with this, American president? Because, Harper is one of the most pro-American PMs we had. You know what I think they should do? They should make Harper the Bank of Canada governor. That's probably one of the best economists we ever had in Canada. And he's a serious guy. He's a serious guy. I mean, we had surpluses when the guy was running the show.
Well, not just that, but it was during Harper's time that we had that famous, was it in the Atlantic magazine or New York Times or something, where the question of how on earth can we match Canada's middle class, which is the richest middle class in the world. All this talk about GDP per capita being higher in Canada than the US. And then with the financial crisis, I mean, I can remember that. This is why Mark Carney got the job at the Bank of England, is because Canada was held up as the star of the whole planet. Like that they'd somehow got through that financial crisis looking a lot better than any other country. That all happened under Harper. Yeah. You would never know, would you, based on that, on those couple of points, you would never know that Stephen Harper, or you would never suspect that Stephen Harper is actually a very controversial figure. And when you mention his name in polite company, there's a reasonably high chance that people are going to come out with like there's going to be an outburst, and there's going to be insults and talk about how terrible he was. I mean, at least in economics, it's hard to make that case, isn't it? I think it's often about other things when people make that case.
You and I both got to meet Harper and Chrétien when we held Level Up here in 2019. We both had them as speakers, Harper and Chrétien, and I think a lot of people when they came were hating one or the other. But when they left, most people recognized both of them as very smart people. And I read both their books. Harper had his book, a really good book. I advise you to read it, as well as Chrétien's book. Harper, definitely a very, very smart economist, though. And I mean, he would make one heck of a Bank of Canada governor if he'd take that job, because he's doing it for basically running the finances for the Alberta right now. So he's working with Danielle Smith. Smart guy, though.
He's running the Sovereign Wealth Fund, isn't he? If I'm right, the Alberta one.
You are right there. You are bang on the money there. So maybe, I mean, they've worked together before. He worked for Harper. So there you go, a little trading places, right?
I'm sure Connie would like that, wouldn't he? He would like the status reversal there. But I don't know. I mean, it's so stressful, isn't it, when you listen to these people speak about their lives, the people who've been at the very top of politics. It's an extremely difficult thing to do, isn't it? It's like literally every minute of the day you're on the job, basically. And I don't know if Harper, who's probably quite relaxed now in his senescence, I don't know if he would sign up for that, because that's quite a big ask of someone, and not just on a personal level.
Well, the guy that left with the socks there made quite the mess. We turned over the keys to him, and then for I guess can't blame it all on him. Jagmeet Singh played a big role in that. And, he's dating Katy Perry now, or maybe. He had dinner with her anyway. So.
Had sushi or something, or lobster, was it?
Big win for Justin Trudeau, not such a big win for Canadians in general. Like how we took a country that was looked upon as one of the leading countries in the world, and now, wow, we should be almost applying for aid sometimes, I would think.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot of times, haven't we, that since I grew up with the outsider's perspective, that is certainly true. Canada's reputation was, just as the most sober, just basically like a Mountie sat there in an unpretentious room with a piece of paper and a pen, just making sure that everything was right and everything was sensible and nothing was no indulgences, no messing around, no corruption. That was the sort of perception of Canada right up until Harper disappeared off the scene. And it's quite astonishing, isn't it, to think? And I think a lot of the kind of angst that you see from a lot of Canadians is related to that, because Canada is not looked upon like that anymore. It's looked upon now as the most liberal or the most progressive country in the world, and it's perceived through the likes of Joe Rogan's comments, when he talks about it as being like an extremist socialist hellhole and things like that. That is really new, and I think that is a very important point, something that should be highlighted.
Yeah, there is a bit of a brain drain going on as well, and it's even down to the professionals, and it's showing. We didn't put it in the story load, but it's showing that many of the Canadians leaving are the professional class or the people with well-to-do. That was the PBO report as well. It said that was going to happen. Remember, they said that most of the good people with means will leave, and then the rest will be killing all the wildlife out in the bush there because it'll get so bad in Canada. And Carney just laughed at that. But here it is. If you go look at the stats, the majority of people leaving are the ones with means. I mean, it's tough to go. I mean, and part of that would be because you can't really go to the U.S. just on a whim. Professionals can go there under the CUSMA agreement too, right? So they can get a job right away. I think it's about 15 minutes at the border as long as you have a job offer in hand. And there you go. If you have professional status, so you can go there and fill out the paperwork. And don't get any ideas, Canadians, but hey, it's not that hard to figure that out. And then obviously this deal with the EU being celebrated all over the place is a big, huge Trump victory. And, we've talked about this in the past, yesterday, but we're going to play a little clip here. This is from MSNBC. And, these are the people that usually are out there to bash Trump a lot. But listen to this.
The U.S. take any hits with this deal? And what does it say, this outcome say about the president's ability to negotiate?
It's incredibly favorable for the United States. When you look at this, it's been very one-sided. I mean, the U.S. has been making the demands, and these other countries have had to kind of contort and comport themselves to them. So they emerge fine here. But what's going to change is over the next weeks and months, as countries and trading partners like the EU look at this episode and think, can we trust this relationship with the U.S.? Can it continue? I think even looking at this deal, framework of which we don't have a ton of details. If that somehow goes south or changes, what's a trading partner like the EU to do? So we see them broaching new relationships with their other trading partners, looking for other opportunities. And I think that's going to be kind of the message here going forward. What's the legacy of these talks, of these threats going to be? And how are other countries going to kind of look at trade going forward? How are they going to change their tack now after all of this?
China is still a big question.
There you go. We got lots more in the international section of that, so we'll just leave that there for now. But this is the pleb reporter. He just puts this out here, and this is we've seen this over and over again. There's some city councilor putting this out, and there's some other people putting this out there too right now. You know, refugees who land in Canada get $224 a day. That's about almost $82,000 a year. Average Canadian salary $61,000. You're almost better off to leave Canada, rip up all your documentation, and come back in as a refugee.
I would advise people to be, you know, suspicious of these numbers. But yeah, generally speaking, it has to be of a certain level of generosity, doesn't it, to maintain? Because a lot of, you know, while they're applying for refugee status, they can't work. This is what Doug Ford was whining about yesterday.
Yeah.
He's come out and saying
let's
it's ridiculous that they don't pay taxes, but we pay them money to not
Pierre
work.
Poilievre tweet there. Let's put up Pierre's tweet there, the next one. There you go. And this is the one that everybody's been sharing over and over and over again. And this is what we talked about right at the get-go. Canada's standard of living under that Liberal decade, you know, after that COVID thing, it fell off a cliff, but the Americans recovered, and we seem to be tail spinning. It's almost like somebody took our wings off and we're just like fluttering.
Yeah, well, this is an old chart, isn't it, that we've spoken about many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? When you look how it hugs the US. I mean, this isn't just Canada, of course. This has happened also to lots of European countries. But it's heartbreaking, really, isn't it? And then after COVID, that huge gap. Yeah, it's a real tragedy. And obviously, this is a tragedy for Canadian democracy as well, isn't it? That thing that we're supposed to venerate as our sort of sacred cow. This is bad news for Canadian democracy because you can't really hope to maintain faith in institutions if people just keep getting poorer and poorer. They're going to revolt. They're going to want a new system. So if the Liberals are really serious in their professed love of democracy, they would do everything that they can to fix this particular chart.
And then this ballot for Pierre Poilievre's by-election there got larger and larger, but Elections Canada got a fix for it. Well, they're going to play a little clip here from Elections Canada, how they fixed this. So I think it was like, I don't even know how many long this ballot was, but here's the fix, and watch this clip. Cut the music, yeah, just play it though. So yeah, so they just, that's what the ballot looks like, and that was going to be a waste of money. So instead of that, you're just going to write in. You write in the name, and even if it's close enough, they're going to count it. If you have Pierre down or whatever.
What percentage of people do you think are going to spell Pierre Poilievre's name correctly? I'm going to say like 15%.
I have trouble spelling it, and we do it every day. So,
yeah. Well, it's because it's not pronounced. The thing is, it's an anglicized pronunciation, isn't it? His name is not Poilievre; it's Poilievre. That's his actual name. But we pronounce it Poilievre because it's the sort of anglicized version, and it doesn't correspond. That pronunciation does not correspond to the way it's written. So
that was
it's forgivable.
That's a big face plant for those guys that are trying to whatever they're trying to do there. You know what I mean? Like they should just charge more for this stuff, this nonsense, right? There's some.
What they could do, if they wanted to really ruin the Tories' lives, is they could try and find someone somewhere in Canada whose name is, Paul Poilievre or Pierre Poilievre or something like that.
You shouldn't be giving out those kind of ideas because they're probably writing it down.
Probably not.
Anyway. And then Mark Carney announced those lowered tolls without disclosing how many millions in subsidies would pay to compensate the operator. And turns out the husband of Anita Anand is the director of investor that held the shares in the Strait Crossing development. There you go.
That's thank God for Blacklocks. They get so much flack. They're constantly denigrated by the government.
Yeah.
But thank
yellow
God
journalism.
They exist because
yellow journalism, according to the Liberals, because they call them out all the time, right?
Yeah, and that's why they hate them. Yeah.
Yeah. And they have an agreement on that Confederation Bridge, and that's Foreign Minister Anita Anand's husband is the managing director of investor group that holds about 34% of the Strait Crossing development, one of the most profitable toll bridges operators in the country. Imagine that. that her husband is one of the most, 34. Good for him, I guess, right? Tolls, and we've seen that with the BC tolls here on the connector, how they were making just scads of money, and they promised to get rid of it. And finally, through political pressure, they finally got rid of it. But
and it's obviously as well this deal is a totally legit. It's an authentic reason that the Liberals are implementing this deal. It's got nothing to do with trying to make sure that the Maritimes continue to vote Liberal. Obviously, that would be very cynical, wouldn't it, to propose that?
Yeah, under the 35-year contract that expires in 2032, the Department of Transportation guaranteed operators of the Confederation Bridge a minimum of almost $14 million a year in toll revenues, with an additional annual subsidies indexed to 3/4 of the inflation rate. Subsidies paid in 2014 totaled $951 million, with a minimum of $1.28 billion to be paid by taxpayers by 2032, when the bridge reverts to public ownership. There you go. There you go.
Well, it's Chrystia Freeland yesterday. I must say that it's funny. Not often that I enjoy a Chrystia Freeland appearance, but she was talking about this bridge and she was complaining in a sort of comical way, a half jokey way, about how she was constantly harassed by MPs from that region to do this, to subsidize this bridge. And then she sort of said, she let the math slip a bit. She was like, "Now don't ask for anything else, okay?" And then she was like, "Ha ha ha, just kidding." But it's like not kidding really. It's kind of like it's just it's good to watch that. I would recommend people watch that press conference.
And then the Carney government is making cuts, and they're going to see some cuts here. And here's one that's put out. The federal government department named Women and Gender Equality Canada is expecting to see its spending cut by 81% by 27-28, according to the latest plan. And should Carney go ahead with that, the department would go from 444 full-time staff to 254, as its budget falls from $407 million to $76 million. Wow, that's a lot of staff.
$407 million to continue the existence of women and gender equality. I mean, that's cheap though, isn't it, really? If you think about that. And then after this, presumably, women will no longer exist in Canada, and there won't be gender equality either. So, yeah. Tragedy, some might say.
And then sounds like Doug Ford's plan to give asylum thing, or he's going to back off on that. So I guess he got a little bit of heat for that. Somebody probably showed him the unemployment rate for students, and he's like, "Oops." So Doug Ford walking it back.
He came out in a sort of supplementary press conference with his immigration minister. I think that might have been this morning, actually. And he was, he just made it all about like, oh, we can't keep paying for these people to do nothing. And it was like, it was almost more like nativist, the way he approached it this time. So he sort of changed his politics a bit. And he said, we can't have this, these people are being paid money and they're not paying taxes, and it's terrible for the economy and all the rest of it. But it ignores the sort of fundamental question here, which is, what is the asylum system fit for purpose, really? When all you have to do is claim, and then you're basically in, and then you're suddenly in a hotel paid for by the province, and you're being given a stipend. I mean, it's a very strange situation. And then there's the other, I mean, as mentioned by the Ontario immigration minister, they don't even know what happens to people if an application is rejected. They're not monitored. Nobody knows where they go, what happens to them. Do you think that they all like dutifully go home? Say like, darn, I guess I can't stay in Canada, I'm going to go home. I mean, the Canadian government doesn't monitor that. We don't even know if they go home.
A lot of people on the internet posting out things saying like, look at the amount of Canadians living in tents on the side of the road, and they can't get a hotel room paid for by the government. And it reminds me of like the telephone companies, when with the mobile companies. If you were a customer, even the banks, if you're a customer, they don't care. But if you're a new customer, they cater to you and give you all these perks and everything. So you're better off, again, maybe you should, if you're not in good stead, maybe leave Canada and just rip up your documentation and come back in.
Well, the thing is that often, because this argument's been going on in England for a lot longer than it has in Canada, and Europe generally, so I think I'm quite familiar with this. But generally speaking, where this ends up is people will say it's international law. We have an obligation to make sure that these people are, living in a dignified situation and all the rest of it. And I feel like when I hear that, I almost say like, so what use is international law then? If international law makes sure that a certain standard of living is enjoyed by people who come and claim asylum from overseas, but not native Canadians, What is the point? Is that serving Canadian people then? Is naturally the question to be asked.
Well, I guess trading places, maybe Canadians should go to England and claim asylum, and then I guess the English could come here and claim asylum. I don't know.
You got it. That's it. That's the idea.
Trading places. And here's another one. Holly Doan's catching them here. Federal government spends $1.3 billion, that's with a B, with American suppliers through actual benefits to U.S. contractors have not been calculated. There you go. The figure is a quoted briefing note written at the same time Cabinet announced the U.S. president was trying to destroy the Canadian economy. So there you go. And a lot of that is consulting and all kinds of stuff, right? So, yeah. So
and quite a bit. I mean, that's just contractors, yeah. So that doesn't even include things like Facebook, the evil organization of Facebook, if you listen to the federal government, with whom they spend just gigantic sums of money.
Yeah, just this crazy talk. And then one more from Holly here. Mexico last year was a top foreign destination for crime and sudden death involving Canadian travelers, right? So there's about 1,500 sudden deaths in Mexico last year versus 111 in the U.S. But some of those were just natural causes as well, right? But most of the deaths were due to natural causes. So there were other causes of deaths were accidental, such as drowning or transport. But Mexico was also the leading destination for reported cases of violent crime targeting Canadian travelers, with 52 of the 297 worldwide cases. This type of crime included assault, homicide, and kidnapping. Mexico remained the top country where Canadians required services as victims of crime. There you go.
I mean, I think what they're trying to do here is highlight the obvious, which is that you don't hear all that much from the federal government or from officials, the official class, do you, about how dangerous Mexico is. But we do hear an awful lot about how risky it is to go to the United States. Yeah,
I mean, you're scared. So many people that say they're scared to go to the United States. Again, I was there recently, and I wasn't scared a bit. And I told people I was Canadian, and some of them just apologized. But for the most part, it was all good. And then Canada pledging aid for Gaza, another $30 million, and then $10 million for Palestinian Authority to work towards statehood. And the Carney Liberals have pledged that. And then, and they also said Canadian taxpayers would contribute $10 million to help Palestinians prepare for statehood.
Yeah, well, just now, the French earlier in the week, I think it was, or was it the weekend, came out and said they recognize Palestinian state. Just now, as we've been chatting, the British have come out and said that, they're going to do that unless Israel does certain things by October or something like that. Quite a strange announcement. But the momentum's starting to build now. And Canada hasn't done that yet. But, I mean, based on how these things go, usually, I mean, Canada is very much in the mood right now to follow the Europeans, isn't it? So I would imagine that Canada's going to do it as well. But this, I mean, I listened to Anita Anand. She was at the UN talking about Palestine. I mean, remarkable, isn't it, that they have the time to go and talk about a conflict thousands of miles away that has nothing to do with this country. But there she was talking about it as being an enormous priority to Canada. But she was saying the two-state solution is the only way for it to work, a democratic two-state solution that doesn't involve Hamas in any way. I mean, again, I said this when she was first announced as foreign minister and she came out and made those clumsy comments about Israel. I just think, do you have any idea of what is actually happening in that part of the world? To suggest now that you can have a two-state solution with a democratic Palestine with no involvement from Hamas, that just seems to me deluded. I don't think that's realistic at all.
And the feds can't seem to track or keep records here. Like almost 600 foreign nationals with criminal records due to be deported are missing, says Canadian Border Services Agency. So yeah, and you said that too, like you just disappear.
I mean, they're almost telling them to do that, aren't they? At this point, what's the? I mean, if you come from some random country and you want to live in Canada, even if you've got a criminal record, your asylum application's rejected, and then you go home. You say, all right, I'm off then, wherever it is that they're from. You get back home and you read things like this and you just think, I'm an idiot. Like, I'm a total sucker. Why didn't I just stay? Like, there's no punishment. The Canadian government is completely clueless. I might as well have just stayed.
And then this is the no SHI Sherlock here. Christian musicians' rights violated during Canadian tour, civil liberties activists say. The Canadian press news agency labeled him. They're good with the label gun, right? Called him a mega singer, and he's been censored and mistreated during his tour of Canada, according to religious groups and civil liberties activists. 6 of Sean's concerts were canceled last week, and a church in which he performed got a $2,500 fine. There you go. It's almost like a comedy of errors there, but there's so many people.
That is a weird one, though. The MAGA singer thing, like, what are they doing? Canadian Press is a news agency, but I mean, really, it's the news agency. There's only really one in Canada, if any, that anybody uses day to day. Why are they doing that? Why are they referring to him as a MAGA singer? I mean, why not just singer or Christian singer? Very, very odd labeling.
Well, it's because they know that fires up the base, because we've gotten a few emails from people that are just like, all fired up, and you want to know the names of people that have allowed him to come to Kelowna. And you know what I mean? Just like these people are, I guess, trying to protect democracy from democracy, right? It's not how it works.
But if he does have the ear of Donald Trump, which is what a lot of these articles suggest, I don't know if that's true, but apparently Trump's a fan of his and they communicate or something like that. If that's the case, really it should be in our interests, our national interests, to be quite nice to this dude, don't you think? Since we're trying to get a deal from the Americans, we want to antagonize them at this moment? I find it very, very odd. He's as usual, really, on this topic.
He's associated with 2 people that the Canadian media do not have a lot of favor with: Trump and Jesus. And if he wants to go for the trifecta, he should drive a Tesla, and then he would be the scourge of the earth, probably, right?
And use a plastic straw, obviously.
Use a plastic straw, drive a Tesla. He's already hung out with Trump, and he's talking about Jesus. Like, holy cow! Like,
it's risky business, that.
And he's anti-vax as well. So, there you go. What a horrible human being.
Good hair, though.
Good hair. Like, he's almost got your hair. The photo op champion of Canada, I think if they had a cabinet position for the photo op king or queen, I'm pretty sure Francois-Philippe Champagne would be, well, he would have probably tough competition for Melanie Joly, because that's all he does is photo ops. I don't know, like he is the photo op guy.
Yeah, he likes to do a very sort of sanctimonious, self-righteous piece to camera now and then, doesn't he? When a microphone is pushed into his chin. But other than that, it's basically these photo ops.
Nothing of consequence, but maybe he's trying to take a run at Sydney Sweeney there, and show that he can actually do photos as well. Sydney Sweeney, sure, she's getting a lot of attention in the U.S. They made her super famous too by there's some. I think we have something later, so I'll save that for later there. But we got to keep in mind the fool of the day, Francois-Philippe Champagne. He's obviously always competing for that honor. But and here's Pierre Poilievre again.
Thereabouts, isn't he?
Here's Pierre Poilievre again with a tweet here saying the Carney's latest gift to Trump by continuing to block LNG and pipelines to Eastern Canada. He lets the U.S. take over energy sales to the EU. I guess Pierre Poilievre doesn't realize.
Hydrogen, though, haven't we?
I guess he doesn't realize that we're going to sell them hydrogen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did the Europeans buy LNG from the Americans if they're going to buy hydrogen from us? Why do they need LNG? Because apparently this hydrogen is going to be the be-all, end-all. I don't know why all the automakers are basically canceling their hydrogen plans. It doesn't make sense either if hydrogen is the future. And if you look at Ballard stock,
and it also doesn't make sense that the great bastion of democracy and liberalism and sense in the world, which is the European Union, if you listen to the Liberal Party, why is it that they came out at the time when they asked for LNG and said, like, this is actually great, it's great for the climate, it's great for our economy, it's great for Canada, it's great for Europe, please do it? Why did they say that? I thought they were the best people in the world. Apparently not on that subject.
I think people should go. I mean, that's what apparently, that's what the Trudeau Liberals ran on, and it sounds like like even the Carney Liberals, because they're going to be a clean energy superpower. Hydrogen is the future. Just I don't know if anybody's talked to hydrogen about it yet, because I don't know where that's at.
As it happens, as things stand, the form of energy that has done the most for bringing emissions down in the last 20 years or so is LNG, isn't it? It's natural gas. But that's not something that people like to talk about, on certain people anyway.
There's no business case for it. Remember that over and over and over.
And there's no moral case for it either.
That's right. And you talk about moral case. If you dispute Bill C-18, you are immoral, according to Stephen Guilbeault. And that's our Bill C-18 pitch there. Free the media, stop government funding, and repeal Bill C-18. There's my little soapbox there for the day. International news.
Still trying to get an interview with him, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm no longer. They've ceased in their responses to me. His little media people. So just to give people an idea of what it's like to try and interview somebody in this government, not easy.
The Liberals and the NDP not very good at becoming or allowing questions. So, because it might hurt democracy, if they actually have to answer a question, right? So there you go. How dare you? Tuesday's front cover of the New York Post there, that the guy there, he killed 4 people. And apparently the New York City mayor said he was angry with the NFL. One was a police officer, right?
Yeah, it looks like he went into the wrong building or the wrong room or something like that. And because he intended, so this is what they say, he intended to target the NFL because he suffered a brain injury and wasn't compensated for it.
Yeah, it's tragic. And then even the more tragedy is there were CNN, or I don't know, CNN or MSNBC, one of the networks there was like, they're just like in their description early on, just like, and he's possibly white. And then here's the picture, right? Just like, why did you have to say that? Why did you say anything? Why did you list any race there? Why did you that's what a lot of people are keying on. Just like, what? Does that
because
have to do
as far as I'm concerned, for quite a lot of people in the chattering classes, these events aren't even real. They don't even happen as far as they're concerned, I don't think. They're not like, it doesn't actually concern people dying, tragic deaths with blood all over the walls and all the rest of it. I don't think that's what it is to them. To them, it is, how can I advance my political agenda based on this news article, which basically isn't real life? Because, I mean, right away, when the first alerts were coming out from the police in New York, right away people were saying, let's ban assault weapons. And by people, I mean even like Democratic Party officials. It's kind of, I know you have a political agenda, chaps, but just hold on. Let this sort of tragedy play out and remember that it actually involves real human beings. But I think for a lot of people, their minds are so rotten that it's just immediately it's like, okay, let's get my list out. What can I get here? Okay, race, guns, and then it's very disheartening.
Well, here's a 42 seconds of the mainstream media eating a bowl of crow. So let's watch this clip.
The early reviews are in on the new trade deal announced with the European Union. The Financial Times says the deal marks a victory for Trump.
Is this a fantastic deal then struck by Donald Trump?
Absolutely a victory on behalf of the Trump administration.
Isabel, the bottom line is this is the biggest trade deal in President Trump's effort to effectively reshape the global trading order.
On this deal, the European Union, this is a big win for the U.S.
The bigger picture is that Trump is still very much pursuing his longer-term goal of achieving what he perceives to be fairness for America.
It's a triumph of a lot of things. Certainly, the president ought to take a victory lap. I think it ends up being good for the European Union. It's a blow against the conventional wisdom.
The early
Oops! All the people that said that the world was going to end at. Yeah, and and the markets again, all-time highs. Bitcoin all-time high. Commodities all-time high. Should we go on? And the American consumer holding up very well. And even Bill Maher was out there and he said, I thought this was just going to blow up our economy, and clearly it hasn't. And he said, I drive around and everything looks great. And so Bill Maher even eating a little bit of crow. So this deal, I mean, some of the deal, 6 months in. I mean, you have to give credit where credit's due. 6 months in, the Iran thing, like he did that operation, and if you remember back to Jimmy Carter when they tried that operation there, I think the Iran hostage crisis where they crashed all the Blackhawks as they were going in to rescue the hostages. And then Trump goes in there, and I don't even think anybody knew that he did it before the pilots are on their way home. And then this trade.
I wouldn't blame that on Jimmy Carter necessarily that they screwed it up on the ground, but
I'm just and then the this trade deal. I mean, it's clearly, and you said it yesterday, clearly a big win for the Americans. And watching Ursula squirm there, and we got some Keir Starmer here. We didn't get to play yesterday because we had no videos yesterday. We got some Keir Squirm and Starmer here with Donald Trump here. So let's play this first clip of Keir.
Farmers in this country at the moment, and I'm sure the Prime Minister won't thank me for raising this. We've had changes to inheritance tax, which mean a lot of farmers feel they're going to lose their farms when they die or their father dies. How important are farmers to a country?
You mean they're going to lose the farm because of estate taxes?
Correct. So that when they die, they'll have to pay so much. They're cash poor, but they have great property.
I know. Well, they're cash poor. They're land rich and cash poor. A lot of people are. I've had that too. Sometimes I'm land rich and cash. Sometimes I'm cash rich and land poor. I like it both ways, but as I get older, I like the more conservative route. So I did something that I don't know if you can do, but it was great. I love our farmers. As you know, in our tax bill, we have a clause that's very important. We were losing a lot of farms to the banks because a loving mother and father would die and left their farm to their children or their child, but their children, their family. And they loved their family, and they thought they were doing them a favor, but they had a 50% tax to pay. So the land would get valued, and at a high number, because some of the farms were valuable, but they didn't, they couldn't quantify it. And they go out and borrow money to pay the estate tax or the death tax, as it's called. And they'd overextend, and they'd lose the farm. And they'd commit suicide in many cases.
Yeah, we're seeing that.
No. Our levels are nowhere near 50%.
They're not 50%, but the dissatisfaction is real.
We've just introduced where it's paid over many years, works out
that's good.
An extra 2% a year over 10 years. So it's not at
I mean, his day-to-day life, Keir Starmer, is not particularly good. I don't think he's embarrassed on a daily basis, but I feel like that was just another level entirely. That was just and that's the least of it. That's just one brief clip. It was just like it was one thing after another that he was.
Let's play another one. Let's go with another one. Let's do the next one here.
The president makes it look easy dealing with illegal migration. You must be envious of his record in such a short period of time.
Well, I think we've been discussing illegal migration is a huge issue in both of our countries. In the United Kingdom, it is a real cause for concern, and that's why we must bear down on it.
You got to give credit there to that. I mean, I don't know if you want to listen to it again, but the way that she asked that question, she deserves a lot of credit there, because she totally made it impossible for him there, because she completely she basically put them at war with each other, didn't she? It was like, look how easy he makes it. So it's it was a really good question.
And he almost mimicked Carney there. Oh my.
But yeah, I mean, Trump goes on there. He goes on to say, I don't know if it's actually after that or before that, but he says, basically, if you want to win an election, this is what you do. You bring taxes down. Keir Starmer's doing the exact opposite of that. You control immigration, control your border. Keir Starmer's doing the opposite of that. And then, I can't remember what the other one was. But basically, it was almost like a lecture. It was like advice. It was relentless humiliation of Keir Starmer there. And he is such a feeble man. He's unfortunately a very spineless individual. He didn't have it in him to contradict Trump or to have a go at Trump. He just sat there and sort of squirmed, except on one occasion where he said, Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, he was like, well, actually, he's a friend of mine. didn't defend him or anything like that. Just
Well,
said he's my friend.
He did better than Carney when when Trump went at Trudeau. Carney and Freeland, he just sat there and let it happen.
Yeah.
This is a preview of what's coming to Canada. Listen to this here.
Yeah, but now you've put an elite squad where people are going to think twice about putting an X post or putting a Facebook post. That's the kind of country
they're going to think
you
twice.
have created.
They're going to think twice about putting out information which will lead 13-year-old girls to commit suicide.
Then why not call it the Child Online Safety Bill? If it's just
suicide.
about children, is it just about children, or does it focus on adults?
That should be an elite squad.
Barry, does it just focus
to protect 13-year-old
I'm sorry,
girls?
the elite squad is not about children. Actually, shall I read you the thing? An elite squad of police officers is to monitor social media for anti-migrant sentiment. I don't think 13-year-olds are engaging that. So is it also to monitor adults? Simple question, yes or no?
Yes, of course it will.
Okay.
How do we get journalists like that in Canada? Because, I mean, would the Liberals stand up to that kind of pressure?
Well, it's cultural as well, isn't it? Something I learned when I came to Canada as a journalist and immediately realized that the politeness culture here it also occurs within journalism, doesn't it? And it's hard to be like that. Whereas the English are very shouty and aggressive with one another quite a lot of the time. So I think there's a cultural question. But GB News was started basically by a rich man who wanted to build a news network that was, conservative basically, or ish. And he wanted it to go against BBC, Sky News, and all the rest of them, which are all basically liberal left. So I guess that's what it would take in Canada. It would take somebody with bags of money. But even then, the thing with Canada is that guy there, Barry Gardiner, he's a Labour MP who I told you I used to work in for a newspaper that had Keir Starmer as its MP for that area. He was also one of the MPs, so actually quite familiar with him. He's very left wing, I would say, but there he is. He's on GB News. He's sitting there. He's having the conversation. I feel like that wouldn't happen in Canada. They just wouldn't go on.
Well, how many times have we asked?
They would just ignore it.
We keep asking even for interviews over and over with the BC NDP and with the feds, and we've gotten a few, but very, very few, and then they basically just go radio silence. And then here's another clip here, though, as they took Trump to his place in Scotland there, because he's got a beautiful little castle there for his golf course. Yeah, that's probably good enough there. We're just going to show you that. Yeah, he's got a not too bad digs there in Scotland.
Yeah. I mean, this person, though, Johnny MAGA, whoever the hell that is, saying that it's an embarrassment of Keir Starmer because it's much nicer than 10 Downing Street, I assume he means. I mean, this is a country house. It's very different from a townhouse, which is what Downing Street is. And the Prime Minister has lots of places you can go to, including Chequers, which is like a big mansion in the countryside.
Well, you can also go to
somebody that doesn't know anything and is trying to spread bollocks.
And you can also go to the basement of Windsor Castle or something like that too, right? I'm sure Charles has a little nook there for him.
Well, is this Aberdeen, this house that he has? Because that's not very far from the Queen's old favourite house, which is around there in the Scottish countryside, and that's very nice.
And then there's a crowd that showed up for Trump there in Britain. There, we're going to play a small clip of this.
We love Trump! We love Trump! Mr. President, if you are seeing this, just know that the great deplorables of the United Kingdom love you. We are with you. We stand with you, and we want you to succeed.
I don't know who they are. Not many people in England have that attitude.
There you go. And then another shot at Keir Starmer there. He put out a Truth Social there. This seems like this is Trump, Scotland and Trump here. North Sea oil is a treasure chest for the United Kingdom. Taxes so high, however, it makes no sense. They essentially told drillers and oil companies that we don't want you. Incentivize the drillers fast. A vast fortune should be made for the UK. And you've talked about that many times, how the United Kingdom has basically walked away from its vast riches, no different than Canada has with its vast riches, and said that we need to keep them in the ground. Remember Karina Gold saying we need to landlock Alberta's resources. Trudeau says there's no business case for it, and I think in Carney's book there he said that 80% of Canadian resources are oil and gas. It needs to stay in the ground.
But it's just, I mean, on top of that, the hostility to it is one thing. Hostility to oil and gas. We understand that. We see that from the likes of the little Swedish girl who goes around and talks about that all the time. We're familiar with that attitude. I think what really upsets a lot of people is that the next sentence is, well, actually, we need to build the windmills and we need to build the solar panels because that will make us richer. That's where the wealth is. We have to do this for our own sake, for our own prosperity. And that's the one that I think it's just impossible to believe that, because net zero, as we look at the UK, since that's what Trump's talking about, net zero has brought with it an extraordinary cost to the British people. Their standard of living has declined enormously just in the short years that net zero has been attempted. So I don't know. I feel like that's what Trump is. He's getting in there, isn't he? He's noodling. He's getting in there, and that's kind of what he's highlighting there, I think.
Trump had lots to good say about the media, too. He said that the media in England has been really good. I mean, GB News definitely got a ton of questions in. Like you said, you can't even get some of the news outlets into the meetings here because the Liberals actually block people out that aren't favorable to them. But here's a clip here from a GB News as well, talking about their day.
It was GB News in that room today. It was you, it was Emily, it was Michelle, it was so many people from GB News in that room today with me, because these are the topics that we talk about every day. This is what matters to people. We are the fearless champion of Britain, are we not? So it was easy. It was like shooting fish in a barrel, frankly. The issues that Donald Trump has done so well on happen to be all the issues that Keir Starmer is resolutely failing on. So you get those two men in the room, and all you have to do is bring up the issues. And I personally, by the end of it, I genuinely felt a bit sorry for Keir Starmer. Like I didn't know it was going to be so hard for him. I genuinely didn't know those questions would be so difficult. But I think also from a personal point of view, it was so satisfying because since spring 2020, I've watched these press conferences where the British press have resolutely failed to hold anybody's feet to the fire. So to be in that environment, I was like a coiled spring because I know what matters. I know what our viewers and our listeners care about. And I just kept batting them at them. It was great. It was joyous. It was genuinely the most satisfying day of my career.
How do you start a GoFundMe to get her here and then into the room? Because, again, what she complained about there, what the British media do, I mean, we've talked about it endlessly about what our government-funded media has done here in Canada. They just kind of, like we watched through the election, they didn't hold a power to account. They continued not to hold power to account. And GB News definitely was asking questions. And, you know, they did have a mirror in the room there, right? Because they said they got to ask the questions with the mirror sitting right there, and a powerful mirror at that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a lot more than just this one woman.
No, I get it. Yeah.
It's the if she came over to Canada, number one, she wouldn't be employed by it. CTV, CBC, they wouldn't employ her. They wouldn't touch her. Absolutely
I get it.
not.
I'm just saying that's the whole network.
So that's the issue, isn't it? It's a cultural problem, and this is about Canadian society. This is about Canadian democracy, and this is a really deep question, I think, that you're touching on here. And it's kind of, GB News, when it started, it was only a few years ago. When it started, it got all the usual, like, David Eby style, like, oh, it's the far right and all these horrible people, like, we're not going to do business with these people. But they ended up acquiring an audience, and that audience happens to be politically very important in Britain because it's people that used to vote for the left. They used to vote for the Labour Party. Then they moved over to the Conservative Party, and now they're kind of up in the air that they feel betrayed by all the parties in places like the north of England. That's kind of who they aim at. And it just so happens that the Labour Party, Conservative Party, and the Reform Party, that's Nigel Farage's party, they all want a piece of that electorate, or that part of the electorate. So as a consequence, they've been forced to come and sit down and speak to GB News. So it's a unique sort of set of events that have created and made this possible. And I feel like in Canada, the straight away the reaction would be, you can imagine it, can't you? You can imagine David Eby at a press conference saying, I'm not going to engage with these Nazis, or whatever he would say. Carney would say the same thing.
Well, they're doing that to
Look
us.
at how they react to Rebel. I mean, Rebel and GB News are, chalk and cheese. They're not the same thing at all. But look at the way they react to any kind of alternative media, as they say. They disparage it, they despise it, they defame it, they talk about how it's completely on the fringes and outside of the realms of sort of normal Canadian society.
There's a few sparks in Canada, and we're one of them. Again, the funding is not what GB News has, but like Western Standard. There's a few other ones out there that are trying to start up too, but they're small sparks. I mean, most of the problem in Canada is that there's government funding from almost all media on the left there. I mean, they're all at the begging bowl. You can go look at Chorus's stock chart, Global News, and they're all at the begging bowl. So I mean, they don't even want to go after the Liberals because whatever scraps they are getting, they're scared they'll dry up.
But they also fundamentally agree with the Liberals because they're the same kind of people. The journalists and the editors at these news organizations and the ministers and civil servants and all the rest of it in Ottawa, they're basically the same people. In many cases, they know each other. They went to the same schools and stuff. Like, they're not gonna ask questions like she asked, because you can hear her accent, or maybe you can't, but she's not like a posh English person who went to all the right schools and all the rest of it. She's not. I think she's from the north, if my ear's right there, and she's like an outsider. But you don't really have outsiders in the Canadian media, do you? And as a consequence, like yesterday when Carney was talking about that bridge, a bridge, by the way, in Canada, what's the first question that he was asked? I'll let you guess. The first question.
No, you got to give it to me, because I mean, the usual question is, I don't know, maybe the weather?
No, the first question was Gaza, Palestine.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, okay, that's an issue for some people. In the grand scheme of things, that is a completely inconsequential event in the history of Canada. That's not a Canadian issue. That's not a Canadian thing. But the press, because they're that kind of person, they're very much like Melanie Jolie, Anita Anand, all the rest of it. To them, that's all they read about on CNN, New York Times, BBC. So that's on their mind. So it's like, well, obviously, I'm going to ask about Palestine. But they're not serving the Canadian public. Whereas this effort here by GB News, I mean, a lot of people have a lot of bad things to say about it, but the effort is basically to ask the questions that class of people refuses to ask itself, which is the current situation in Canada.
And I'm going to go past the next couple of stories because just for amount of time here, we've got J.D. Vance that was talking about some stuff, and then there was this whole clip of people saying how much they like Trump. There, we already kind of showed that there was a lot of love there for Trump showing up in Britain, and then this one is just a bit of a throwback. We won't play the clip here, but you remember the last time that a president visited the European Union, he kind of wandered off, and the Italian prime minister had to go and help him back into the Maloney had to go and get him and steer him back to the.
That's such a terrible photograph, that, isn't it?
I think the Europeans are still wishing that was the case, because all of a sudden, I think a lot of the networks in the U.S. were talking about, even the Democrats were talking about the American president is definitely showing strength, and it's something that a lot of the media outlets in the other nations aren't used to, haven't been used to for a bit here. So, and then I think one of the last ones here, actually, the LA firefighters suing Gavin Newsom for $400 million for dereliction of duty during the crisis. And they're saying that the LAFD repeatedly requested the water be turned on during the fires earlier this year, but the government refused. It also states the department trucks were forbidden from siphoning water from the ocean. This one makes no sense to me. They forbid them from siphoning water from the ocean to battle the coastal blazes because it could damage the marine wildlife? What?
That's for seals. That's for seals and dolphins. That's not for humans.
Oh my! There was a clip we're going to play, but we won't pass on that. And this one here is There's a massive protest going on. We're going to play this clip. Massive protest going on for the firing of Stephen Colbert. Look at this massive protest. That's good enough. That's good enough. I mean, they go on and rant. I think 3 or 4
Is
people.
that one of his servants, perhaps? Maybe his shoe shiner.
I think his mom was there, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we're going to play a small clip of this because this is something you wouldn't see on Canadian media. 100%, I don't believe you would see. Fox played this. This is a young lady, a 12-year-old, one of the survivors of that camp that's seen so many young people get washed away. She got to sing a song here in tribute to her friends that were washed away.
Thank you very much.
Here you
We'll be
go.
with you in a second.
Take it away, Skyler.
I heard there was a giant flood, but we were washed in Jesus' blood. And you don't really care for my news, do ya? On July the 4th, 2025, the water rose and we went adrift. The baffled king composing hallelujah, hallelujah.
Sad, tragic.
It's an unbelievably sad, hard to comprehend, isn't it, what happened there? I don't know what Leonard Cohen would think of that, though, that song, but we'll not find out.
Tragic. You can go on Fox News and you can see the rest of that if you would like to see it. We're on the BC News. And here's Rob Shaw saying, as BC pushes for more housing and greater density, the province high-rise concrete residential development sector is melting down in an economic crisis. And that, we've talked about this in the past too, like the condo crisis in BC and Toronto is just abysmal right now. People are losing money hand over fist. And here in Kelowna too, the cranes are coming down and they're not going back up. But some of the policies that were put into place, including in BC here, the Airbnb policy has stopped people from even considering to invest in this tourism city. So,
well, it's also not even high interest rates, but much higher, 10 times higher than they were, I suppose, and then immigration down a little bit. But if that's what it took to have a buoyant condo market, then sort of suggests that the condo market is not really long for this world, doesn't it?
And new U.S. anti-dumping tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber kick the BC forestry sector that's already flat on its back from years of BC NDP. And we've done so many stories on forestry. We've even included interviewing the forest minister, Bruce Ralston, who's now retired, David Eby. I can't even remember all the people that we interviewed. One of the executives for AP Planers, and Kevin Falcon, John Rustad, saying that the forest industry was in shambles long before Trump became president, and interviewed Kofi as well. Over 10,000 job losses in a couple of years, and mills shutting down. Canfor said that BC is not a place to invest because there's no certainty and no access to fiber. And when I asked those same questions to Eby said that Canfor is not telling the truth. So,
but I mean, just on the US side here, I mean, I know there's a long story to this, most of it domestic rather than foreign. But from the US perspective, they really seem to be going for the kill, don't they? That's the thing, and it's the same with cars. It's and aluminium and all the rest of it. It seems like their intention is to kill those industries, basically. Oh. And if they make that determination, and we're caught sort of, as he says here, already been sort of on its back. If we're caught lying down, there's not much that we can do really, because I have to reinvent the whole sector to export it elsewhere.
And here's Eby saying that the Fed's got to make it more fair. And he says they got to float more money for ferry users in BC, because I guess he wants to ship more of that out to China, I guess, to get some ferries built. He says that when Carney announced that there will be a 50% fare cut for passenger vehicle and commercial users for Marine Atlantic, he says it's now time for the federal government to have a serious look at the current funding formula for BC ferry users. I think Eby's going to have a tough time whining after he took that money federal money for the Canadian Infrastructure Bank money and give it to China.
Which amounts to, in terms of interest rate relief, it amounts to hundreds of millions of dollars as just a gift. I mean, often a loan is a kind of a gift anyway, even if you have to pay it back. But in this case, because it's such an artificially low rate, it's like hundreds of millions of dollars. But it obviously suits David Eby, and we've seen him do this again and again and again. It suits David Eby to blame all the problems in British Columbia on somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's Christy Clark, which we've heard a couple of times, John Rustad, Donald Trump, obviously, Justin Trudeau was one, and just that, and now it's kind of the federal government in general. But when he made this comment, I believe it was this same press conference I was watching, he went on again to talk about how British Columbia is the economic engine of Canada and how it distributes billions and billions of dollars in equalization payments all the time, almost like making it out that BC is like what Alberta really is, you know. And I just find that, you know, it's a little bit too dishonest. That we expect politicians to be dishonest. That's just a little bit too much, I think, when he's talking about as if BC kind of carries Canada. BC doesn't do that at all. BC is basically like revenue neutral at this point. It doesn't really give anything and it doesn't really take anything. But it's just, again, from David Eby, it's everybody else's fault. Everybody else is crap, and he's the only one that can help BC. It's the language of a populist, isn't it?
He's got a pitch here for the windmill creators of the world to come to BC because Donald Trump slagged on windmills there and said that they kill eagles. So here's David Eby making an invitation to the world for windmills.
We're going to address climate change at the same time as we're growing our economy. And I couldn't help but notice the President of the United States, Donald Trump, saying that he doesn't like those windmills that produce electricity. They interfere with the views from his golf courses. Let me tell you, to all American clean energy producers, come relocate to British Columbia. We are the clean energy capital of the world. We're going to do it. We're creating energy here. We're supportive of clean energy, and we will continue to be so. You can join the amazing more than 700 medical professionals that have applied to join.
There you go.
Easy solution. If it sounds too easy and too good to be true, it probably is, isn't it? I mean, that's the only thing I would say there.
He's one of the few politicians in the world that are still flogging climate change as the main political platform, though.
But I would say, is that a surprise to you? I mean, you're very familiar with Vancouver. I'm reasonably familiar with it. It doesn't surprise me at all that he would be the representative of the people of Vancouver, because Vancouver is an anomaly in the world, not just in Canada. It's a very strange place. And yeah, I think he's probably doing and saying what the majority of people in Vancouver want. So there you go.
I watched that clip, and I didn't see Trump say anything about his golf course's view being. He talked about the plains of the United States, not the airplanes, but the plains being dotted with all these windmills.
I think he said that it was like ugly, and it makes the Scottish landscape look ugly, which even the greatest defenders of wind turbines, I can't imagine them disagreeing with that. They're not exactly attractive, are they?
You know where you can put them all the time is when you go play mini golf. There's always a windmill there.
The final challenge.
So why not just put them all in the windmills? Anyway, let's move on to markets here. We're a little bit, we're at 10 o'clock here now. So CNBC just want to play the small clip here. So confirmed live on TV that USA will release its report on strategic Bitcoin reserve.
The Trump administration is expected to release its first national crypto stockpile report on Wednesday stateside, detailing the structure and contents of the government's digital assets. This includes holdings under the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and the U.S. Digital Asset Stockpile, which consists of cryptocurrencies seized through legal enforcement actions. Investors are eager to know how much Bitcoin the U.S. government actually owns. The report could also recommend national security and banking access reforms for crypto firms.
There you go. I think there's some discrepancy because they had a lot more. I think some of it was sold, so it's going to be interesting to see what they actually came out with. But Bitcoin near all-time highs right this morning at 117,670 in U.S. dollars, and the markets are relatively, flat again today. I mean, not much going on, but still, everything's at all-time highs. And then we have a little bit here from the LNG stuff here. LNG producers climb as the EU agrees to that $750 billion in energy purchase. That's $750 billion there. That's with a T. And then we got this here clip. Well, remember, this is from Brett Wilson, former Dragon's Den star, Calgarian. Remember when Justin Trudeau said there's no business case? There you go. So Brett Wilson, no fan of Justin Trudeau on X, and he, if he was in Britain, he might end up in getting that elite police force coming looking for him, right, with all those tweets.
Well, he's undermining our faith in institutions, isn't he? Very, very naughty.
West Texas Intermediate up this morning, 67.72, up just about $1. Western Canadian Select selling at a discount at 54.36. There you go. Air Canada says that it's cut its profit cut in half in challenging environment. There you go. And then people not liking this, like we talked about Rogers yesterday, saying people have to come back to work, and then some people are saying like they're going to quit. Okay.
Yeah, well, if you do that, one of Doug Ford's asylum seekers might take your job.
And then we'll move on to technology and transportation. Here's something for Ursula and them to take a look at: the world's best-selling cars, the top 10 best-selling cars. The Germans claim to sell the best cars in the world. They got the 10th spot.
And it isn't exactly what you would expect, is it? It's not like a classic German car, that.
But I guess you could say there's a German that owns the Model Y at the top, right? Because isn't he accused of being German?
Austrian, maybe.
Then, of course, a couple of the regulars, Corolla, the RAV4, F-150, the Honda Silverado, Tucson, Camry. Toyota's got quite a few in there. And then the BYD Song. There you go. Build your dreams. That's
Japan, no. The Japanese just they were laughed at, weren't they, when they entered the car market at first? But they've won the day, really. Look at them.
Yeah, I can remember driving some of the first Hondas when they first came out. They were rust buckets. I mean, they called them tin cans. I think if you used to peel back the fender, it would say Coors Light on the back of the fender.
But now it's like, we've said this a lot of times, but like Toyota's pretty much, at least when it comes to like combustion engines, pretty much the best, most successful car company in the world, isn't it? Best
the largest, yeah, the largest as far as total sales go. They are having some issues though. I mean, they've kind of backed off their hydrogen dream, because that was where they were putting all their money was into hydrogen, and that kind of fell apart. And then and they haven't gone very much into electric. Hybrid's kind of their bread and butter. That's where they're kind of like Prius, and that is kind of where they were putting all their money, and that's where they're probably going to say they build a great engine. There's no doubt about it. Same as Honda, right?
And a good price as well compared to the competitors.
And the Model Y, no wonder it's the best-selling car in the world. Got the highest rating for safety. So if you care about your kids, there you go, Model Y.
I'm also surprised, though, by the way, just to talk about Tesla, that the Model 3 is not there. Because when I drive around, all I ever see is Model 3s. I don't really see Ys. But I mean, maybe that's just Canada. I don't know.
And then we talked about that deal yesterday. Tesla did that partnership deal with Samsung, and it's huge. And Elon says it's going to be, you'll see the hugeness of it. Hugeness of it, is that a word? In 2 to 3 years. That was like I think, $16 billion deal. And they're going to build the AI6 chip in Texarkana. Look at that, eh?
It's a good place to do it.
And Chamath, we've talked about Chamath many times. He was a former Canadian. He says he's had driven every car imaginable: Range Rover, Mercedes, a rich guy, Bentley, Toyota, Ferrari, Volkswagen, Honda, and Model Y is the absolute best, no competition. And I'm gonna go with him there. I drive a Model Y as well. My vote's with him, and I've driven a few cars as well. Meta commits billions to AI labs and talents. They're really going hard on hiring anybody away. That's not the picture yet, but you can leave that up there anyway. That's the first AI model to get featured in Vogue. There you go.
Some people are making quite good money, aren't they, with AI YouTube, figures or whatever, pretending to be real women.
Sydney Sweeney, she's doing all those American Eagle ads, and she's making some money, and her accounts are blowing up. And then, of course, some of the left-leaning media outlets in the United States, I'm sure it's bound to come to Canada here, but we can just put a clock on it and see when it shows up. But they've interviewed, guess, a university person, an academic, and says, that she's expert. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, and she talks about her genes, that she's obviously a Nazi.
Well, I mean, that's a classic mathematical formula, isn't it? So I can't disagree with mathematics.
Yeah. And I imagine she drives a Tesla, because,
Electric cars, famously, Hitler was all about them. He loved electric cars.
It's just like comedy show. In our health section, health advocates are shocked as Carney Liberals back away from pharmacare. So Jagmeet Singh destroyed his party for pharmacare, and it looks like the Liberals are going to walk that back.
I just feel all these people are coming out and they're upset about a lot of things, because obviously we talk about the women's department. We didn't really go into it, but a lot of people are upset about that, and they're talking about how it's going to be a tragedy and all the rest of it. I just kind of think I feel like maybe they're not actually aware of how serious the economic situation is for Canada, and that's maybe Mark Carney's going to have to make that clear. He's going to have to spell that out. Like we're not in a situation where we can have everything. An attempt was made by Trudeau and Freeland to tax, what he considers to be the rich, with the capital gains tax, and that ended up being a lot worse, really, for the Treasury, for the government's finances than it did a lot more damage than good, basically. So I think people maybe are going to have to hear. It's kind of like you can't have everything, and it's going to be for Mark Carney to deliver that message.
And then here's our friend Bart Simpson. The lifespan is what's important, and longer life if you're bedridden as an invalid is pointless. Lifespan is something like, and like for myself, I think I've lost 60 pounds about, 5-6 years ago now. 7 years ago. Changed my lifestyle, and I actually have gained muscle in my 60s here. Gained muscle, and actually I measured myself the other day, and I've grown an inch, and I said, how's that even possible? How's that possible? And I asked ChatGPT, I said, how is that possible to grow an inch? And it says, well, your back muscles are stronger, your posture is way better. And then my brother, I posted that on my social media, it's private. And he said that he's a year and a half older than me. He said he's gone from 5'9" to 5'6", and that's the normal course for people, right? So they lose height because you start to thing up there. So this is just a small thing to say, like, your health is in your hands. Stop eating crap. Stop eating crap. And here's it. My daughter sent me this. She's out in Ontario right now. She's a nurse, and then there's a vending machine there that she ran across. And if you zoom in on it, it says at the bottom there, Vive, healthy living vending machine. And what's in there? Look what's in there.
It's not even Diet Pepsi, that is it? That's just the real sugary stuff.
That's the good stuff. There's Red Bull in there, Snickers, Kit Kats. Oh yeah, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But if you put a sticker on it, and you say it's healthy living, then obviously it is. And you put a couple apples and pears on it, like the stickers on the machine.
But not inside, just on the outside.
Maybe you're supposed to lick the label or lick the labels on the machine there, but it says right on the bottom there, Vive, healthy living, or maybe some of this might be diet stuff. I remember this when I was younger, or when I was like 60 pounds heavier. Some of the diet drinks that you could get is you can buy the full size Red Bull or Coca-Cola. Just drink half, and then it says half the calories.
Yeah.
I'm
amazed at that. I must say, very surprising to see. Although there is a bottle of water, I've now discovered that.
Where?
Yeah, in the middle on the left.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and there's some the drinks that are in there too, like the Gatorades. I don't think it's Gatorade. Oh, I think it is Gatorade. I don't know. Some energy drinks, but there you go.
Some jerky as well, in case you feeling in the mood.
Your health for the day. Your health is in your hands, though. Just stop putting garbage in, garbage out. Then now we're on to our funny part of the day, although I think a lot of the show was funny today. And this is Ravi Kahlon put out a tweet, and Mortimer, he had some response. He said, "Dear U.S. energy clean developers or whatever, you're officially welcome here in BC." And then he says, "This parody, you'll think you attract any significant private sector capital when you force them to operate in one of the highest." Anyway, you can read it yourself. Yeah.
That's what capital is attracted to. I mean, whatever this guy, obviously he's got an agenda to push, whoever this person is. But what certainly is true is that capital will go to, the easiest destination with the least obstacles. That's what capital does. And, he's right to point out there are many, many obstacles in British Columbia, aren't there? So I don't think it's particularly attractive, is it, for capital?
Trump scored his biggest deal, I think, in his presidency so far, and Mark Carney announced a massive announcement right after that, securing the biggest deal in his history. He offered a coupon for the bridge, and 99.9% of Canadians will not get it benefited. 100% of us will pay the bill, though, because we're going to have to subsidize that. So, I guess everybody gets something out of that bridge, a bridge to nowhere.
$50 to cross a bridge, though. That was crazy, wasn't it? I mean, even 20... whatever it's going to be, 25 or 20, like that's crazy as well.
I think you don't realize what the tolls are in some of the roads in Ontario right now too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And this one here, somebody says, kind of a good question, Klein. Why are Canadians sleeping in tents with auto pays for hotels? Again, you'd have to ask yourself, why are you doing that?
But a really good question would be, why are the governments in this country, why are the governing class working as hard as they can to undermine Canadians' faith in democracy and in the government? That thing that we're told never to do because it's so bad. Why are they doing it themselves with things like this? That's my main takeaway from that.
And then this is for all the Karens out there and all the ones that just resort to screaming all the time about that. You should see all the people on I didn't put it in here, all the people screaming about Sydney, the American Eagle ads, Sydney Sweeney there about, how dare she, with her blonde hair and her blue eyes, be hawking jeans, driving muscle cars and riding horses. Just crazy. But look at this lady. She freaked out because she ordered from Skip or whatever that she wanted her Outback order, and they forgot the bloomin' onion. And that was the only thing she wanted. Then,
just wanted an onion.
And then she found out later that her fat husband ate the onion in the car. And then so she went to apologize.
That's funny.
And now we do have Sydney Sweeney. I didn't even know we put her in here. So here's Sydney. New York Post put this out. Why Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle is being slammed as Nazi propaganda by crazed woke mom. How is everything Nazi these days? There was a time. I mean, I have Jewish heritage. There was a time when you wouldn't dare use that because you would be just, insulting all the people that were persecuted and lost their lives. And now all of a sudden they throw it around like it's the latest hate slur that you can come up with.
Well, also another reason not to use it is to try and preserve its seriousness, to try and only use it when it's actually genuine. Yeah.
Throwing it at this girl, look at her. Does she look like a Nazi? Does she look like she's doing anything? Is she guilty of killing Jews, persecuting and killing Jews? I don't know.
It's absurd, isn't it? Yeah. The only thing she's guilty of in my mind is mumbling. Really don't like the way that she talks in those ads. Very, very strange.
Ads? Wow. Well,
have you not heard? Have you listened to them? Listen, she's like, I like to wear jeans. It's like, raise your voice. I can't hear you.
I haven't, so I guess I missed out on the deal. And then again, anyway, somebody put this out. Mark Nixon, we follow on X as well. He put out $1.2 trillion for the Americans, and in comparison, we got a couple of bucks off of a bridge. We also, to be fair, we also have that coupon for parks. If you got your kids, you want to take them to a park or a museum. Even though in most European countries, it's free to go to parks and museums all the time. not just for the summer.
Including Mark Carney's beloved London. They're all free in London, all the museums.
But in Canada, they're only free for the summer, and you have to have an adult with you that pays full pop. And Justin's back. Justin's back, and he has this clip here that just wants you to remember who he is and what he did. And he's also got that date with Katy Perry. Let's play a small clip from Justin.
So there could be a cut for small business.
We'll probably have things to say about it, but we have to know that a large percentage of small businesses are actually just ways for wealthier Canadians to save on their taxes, and we want to reward the people who are actually creating jobs and contributing in concrete ways. So there's a little tweaking to do.
Most of the small businesses I know are just basically making it, you're barely getting by. But hey.
I mean, he's obviously talking about a real thing. It does exist, doesn't it, to create a kind of like shell company to get a better tax arrangement. But it's an absurd thing for the Prime Minister to have said that, isn't it?
And there he is. He's vacationing in the Alps there. And guess what he's wearing? You can't see it probably from there, but guess what he's wearing? A Stephen Colbert shirt.
He's just, like, he's not only is he literally yesterday's man, but he's got yesterday's ideas as well, hasn't he? It's just, it's so out of date. It feels almost like it's decades out of date, even though it's only maybe a decade out of date.
And then this is an old Canadian kind of joke. Like, if you want to save money, you just keep buying at sales, because the more you spend, the more you save. So this man laid off from job due to tariffs drives his car back and forth across the bridge as many times as possible to take advantage of toll reduction. Every time he drives across, that's $30 in the bank, right? Because it dropped it from 50 to 30 or 20. So it's huge. Like, just think if he does that 10, 12 times, like,
Well, maybe he can do what the Canadian government does and borrow that money. Go in the bond markets, try and sell his own bonds. Then it's really smart.
I didn't even know I put in a little of this meltdown. We'll just play a small clip of this meltdown for somebody bashing a little Sydney Sweeney here.
Complaining about that Sydney Sweeney jeans ad, so I went and saw it.
I feel like Sydney Sweeney getting canceled for Yahtzee propaganda should have been on everyone's bingo card at this point. But believe it or not, it does keep getting worse because they have continued to drop more ads over the last few days, and today I'm going to show you the most horrific and problematic one. As always, make sure you like, rage, comment, repost, and follow along for more, but if you're not already up to date, here's what's going on. This week, Sydney Sweeney launched an ad campaign with American Eagle that is very clearly white propaganda. And in any other timeline, it might have been less noticeable, but given the current climate of things, it is extremely obvious, and it has garnered them a lot of attention, and even their stocks have gone up because of it. This shouldn't really be a shock. In the past, we've seen her with her family members who are all clearly red hat people. In the moment, some people gave her a pass for that, obviously, because you can't choose your family, but her silence since then, and this campaign with American Eagle now really seals the deal with where she's at. Obviously, the campaign goes beyond just a bunch of photos and videos in which she's wearing jeans.
So she was supposed to, I guess, in this girl's mind, if she wanted to be accepted by her, she needed to disassociate herself with her family because they wear red hats? Is that how it works?
I mean, she's either mentally ill, in which case, God help her, or this is just jealousy, isn't it? Because
hey, she's not alone.
We learn as we get older, don't we, that female jealousy manifests in rather interesting ways.
She is not alone. They actually, I think it was on some of the networks, and I can't remember which one, MSNBC, CNN, or whatever. One of the networks interviewed a professor somewhere, expert, that said basically the same things. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, you're never going to be short on academics willing to say things like that. It's critical theory, isn't it? Which I learned about critical theory at university before it was cool.
I don't understand how this
there's a whole army of these mediocre academics out there who don't know anything else but critical theory. So this is the sort of thing they do.
Here's this model offered a gig, paid probably some, good amount of cash. And I mean, it's a successful ad campaign for American Eagle. Their stock went up. I mean, what better could you ask for? And all these people melting down from it obviously has actually added fuel to the fire, because Sydney Sweeney's social accounts are growing like crazy. So Sydney Sweeney I guess in
It's surreal, isn't it? It's so strange. She's become this figure in the sort of culture wars, hasn't she? Even though she's never said or done anything.
Yeah.
She's not like politically active. She's literally just, seems to me, a fairly sort of normal actor. That's all she is, really, isn't it? But for some reason, she's
been the target.
This thing that people are fighting over. Yeah, very strange.
I think Elon Musk should retweet her and say thanks for taking some of the heat off, right? And welcome to the club.
Well, Elon, I'm sure, has got ideas. Don't do it, Elon. That would be bad. Don't do that.
Welcome to the club. And then here's, I think this one is in Britain here. And it's like, this is how people are not helping people. Here's a cop wrestling with somebody, and then nobody helps. They actually just take all their phones and record the guy. So just a small clip of this nonsense.
Right, support, right, no units. Leave me the fucking alone. 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 Leave me the fucking alone.
Okay, that's good. Anyway, obviously that's in England somewhere, but several more people show up, and nobody does anything other than record it.
Well, I suppose nowadays as well, there's all this. I think people are genuinely a bit worried when they see something like that happen because of their attitudes to the police and that the culture's changed. I think people are they're worried. It's like, if I do this, will I get arrested? Will the police hit me? Like, what should I do here? You know, it's kind of.
Well, I think they
certainly in England anyway. That in England they're just used to being passive, and it's kind of, you can't do anything or you'll get done for it. So they end up just looking at it, you know, which is terrible.
I think they passed a law in New York a while ago that says if you did that and nobody calls 911, that you all get charged for.
Terrible. Well, there's a similar situation in China. It's like a lot of people ask the question, why do the Chinese not stop to help people when they're in a car crash or something like that? And it's for a similar reason. It's because there's a really high chance that they'll get prosecuted for it. They'll be, you know, they'll take on liability just by trying to help somebody. And there's actually a famous video of, I think it's a BBC reporter, rescues somebody who's drowning in a pond in China. And everyone's just standing there. They're just looking at it. And he goes in, he's like an English dude, because it's a different culture. But I don't know, I guess maybe we're heading that way in the West, where people are too worried about what's going to happen to them if they intervene.
I would say, though, like when you do stupid things, you get stupid rewards. And I think what's going to come is these robots are going to come and do the arresting, and they're not going to care what you scream at them. They're just going to, you know, we've seen it in China.
The police bowl.
Yeah, they're going to come and just do things. and they won't be rolling around in the mud with you. So careful what you ask.
Won't be able to reason with them.
That's our show for today. I'm Jim Check.
Fool of the day.
Fool of the day, yeah. Fool of the day. Who you got?
Could it be anybody but Keir Starmer? I think it has to be.
Keir Starmer, yeah, he definitely. I think kind of like he reminds me of the Bugs Bunny cartoon. Who was the guy? the guy with the Elmer Fudd. Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, Elmer Fudd. Yeah.
He Elmer Fudded his way all the way through that. Trump rolled over him like the Roadrunner, and Elmer Fudd just that's all, folks.
Agony, painful.
Hey, there you go.
Like the journalist said, I also felt a bit sorry for him, which is a ridiculous situation to be in. He's the most powerful person in Britain. But you do feel a kind of human sense of pity, don't you, for somebody in that situation?
Like I said, there's small sparks of media in Canada, including ourselves, that are trying to get more truth out there. And we'll keep plugging away. Maybe somebody will come along with a bag full of money like they did with GB News and help us get our message out there. More. Anyway, thanks for watching. We're back tomorrow. I'll be off, I think, for the rest of the week, but Josh and Ian will be in. I'm off to Calgary there. Josh and Ian will be in the really big show for the rest of the week, and I'll be back. Monday's a holiday, so I'll be back on Tuesday. With that said, cheerio, and we'll chat with you on Tuesday.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence.